in the Iraq War.
At the time, the military was quick to point out her death was not combat related. Now, since then, her parents have struggled to find out, well, what did happen? Tonight, Matt Cesney takes a close look at the evidence gathered by the military and asks the question, was it murder or suicide?
Among the thousands of graves at Jefferson Barracks Cemetery, there are stories of bravery, heroism, and proud service. And among the thousands is the grave of Private LaVena Johnson, whose story is clouded in mystery and, according to her parents, marred by murder and cover-up.
Right now, that's probably the emotion that's driving me right, is the anger that my daughter would go in the Army to serve her country, and she gets murdered, brutalized, and they turned on her.
LaVena's father, Dr. John Johnson, has waged his own personal crusade to find out what really happened to his daughter in Iraq on July 19, 2005. The Army ruled her death a suicide, the victim of a gunshot wound to the head. But in documents and autopsy photos obtained by the Johnson family and shared with News 4, more questions are raised than answered.
First of all, the mere fact that physically she was abused, physically. And the autopsy didn't really address the physical trauma to her body. I thought that was peculiar.
For instance?
The broken nose. She had what looked to be a dislocated elbow or a dislocated shoulder.
Military documents also show no apparent indication of suicide. Her company commander writing, Johnson was clearly happy and healthy physically and emotionally, something her mother knew by a phone conversation the day before she died.
We laughed. We talked about Christmas, and we were making plans.
Johnson's parents also question how their daughter at 5'1" could have handled a 40-inch M16 to kill herself while sitting. In fact, the military laboratory even concluded that based on a gunshot residue test, Johnson may not have even handled the weapon. Additionally, Johnson's military debit card was never found, even though she used it just 2 hours before her death to buy candy. No bullet was ever found where she died, and a trail of blood is seen in photos outside the tent. And even stranger, it appears someone tried to set her body on fire.
Whoever did this tried to burn her up, and there was a second fire in that tent, burned the whole crime scene down.
So if it wasn't a suicide as the Army maintains, how did Private LaVena Johnson die? Well, based on the documents and autopsy photos obtained from the government, her father believes it started with a sexual assault.
I believe she got scared. She went to have a physical to see if she had any kind of sexually transmitted disease. I believe she gave a name. I believe somebody leaked that name out, and then somebody made good on their practice to murder her.
But the military is unconvinced and consider the case closed. A Pentagon spokesman saying the case was investigated thoroughly and there is no evidence to reopen. Now, we tried for weeks to get the Army to say more about the death of Private Johnson, but their only response is that the investigation is closed. Certainly, though, the documents military investigators have gathered seem to say more. Johnson's father is now trying to have her body exhumed at Jefferson Barracks to have an independent autopsy performed. It is a story we will continue to follow. Larry?